What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto learned the truth about his parents too late and swore revenge on Konoha? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. Arashi Kazama, Yondaime Hokage of the hidden village of the Leaf, otherwise known as Konoha, sighed as he looked down at the bundle resting in his arms. A blonde tuft of hair topped the head of the small baby and wide bright blue eyes stared up at him in innocence. Tears leaked from his own eyes as he realized how much the child resembled him, while bearing the soft eyes of his mother. Those eyes that he had watched dim as the last of her life flowed away. "I'm so sorry, Naruto, for the burden I will be placing on you. I hope this village that she and I love so much will see you as the hero you truly are. Please forgive us, Naruto, for leaving you all alone in this world," he spoke, hoping in some small way that the child could remember those final words despite his age. Naruto stared at him for another minute before slowly closing his eyes and drifting off to sleep. "I hope you too can forgive me as well, Kana-chan. It seems the same fate my father passed to me, I must pass to our son," he spoke, sparing one final moment to the body of his deceased love and then turned walking away towards the sound of dying shinobi and battle. Arashi never noticed the puddle of water that had formed where he had once been standing. The water seemingly had come from nowhere, yet it was there glimmering in the faint light, pure and clean. Forest. Screams broke the peaceful night air as more and more ninja fell before their monstrous enemy. Nine tails swooped around wildly, ripping deep gashes in the land and flowing through trees with ease. The beast was massive yet built lean, towering above the forest, its size seemingly able to rival a small mountain. Crimson eyes like blood were filled with malevolence and contempt for the fools who dared oppose it. Kyuubi no Kitsune, the nine-tailed demon fox and strongest of the great-tailed beasts, attacked without rhyme or reason, seemingly crushing anything and everything around it. Leaf ninja were trying their best to fight the monster that had fallen on them like a storm, and yet they seemed unable to do more than annoy the angry demon. Cheers rose up in the seemingly defeated lines as the Yondaime appeared on the battlefield riding atop Gamabunta with the baby Naruto in his arms, who, despite the noise, continued to sleep quietly. The massive toad boss summoned took a puff from his pipe before charging. Kyuubi roared, releasing a stream of blood-red fire at the toad, her tails batting away the few ninja who had dared go near with the arrival of the fourth. Arashi remained calm from Gamabunta's head, adjusting his hold on Naruto. He then began making a long string of hand seals, chakra blazing around him and awakening the slumbering child. The once violent and loud night suddenly stilled and fell into complete silence. A spiral-shaped seal slowly formed on the infant's stomach, who began to cry loudly as if in pain. Kyuubi snarled in unholy rage as this pathetic human dared to think his silly tricks could challenge her grand power. The sky dimmed and the world seemed to blur around the nine-tailed fox, leaving only the blonde human and the child clear to her eyes. The Hokage showed no emotion as from behind him arose a tall, dark figure. Fear and panic filled the kitsune as she recognized the being immediately. Shinigami. Attempting to stop the mortal who had called upon the death god, she found herself held fast to the ground. Looking down, she discovered ice covering each of her four paws and slowly traveling up her legs. Roaring in outrage, she fought against the ice, her eyes meeting the blue orbs of the screaming baby. The color seemed so similar to water and ice to her, but that line of thought died as Arashi finished the last hand seal. Shiki Fujin. The gray-clawed hand of the Shinigami shot from the seal on the infant's belly and surged towards the demon fox when he spoke those words. The hand latched onto Kyuubi's head, making her tense. Pain lanced through her very soul after that, and she could feel her essence being ripped away from her body. Kyuubi's world was filled with those innocent blue eyes before everything went dark. Sarutobi watched as the battle ended and allowed a few tears to slip from his eyes. He moved to the scene and found Arashi in the final stage of his deal with the Shinigami. Picking up the child, he noticed the three whisker-like marks that now dotted each of the baby's cheeks. "I will do my best to see that your son is treated just as you and Kana-chan hoped. Goodbye, Arashi-kun," the third spoke before whispering a prayer for the blonde's soul. 4 years later, Uzumaki Naruto sat on the shore of a lake within a secluded clearing in one of Konoha's many forested areas. Between his small hands floated a ball of water, constantly changing shape and moving, bringing a smile to his young face. He never knew why the water would play with him, making shapes and dancing around him or turning into ice, which sometimes took the form of people he'd seen in the village or imaginary friends he made up. The water and ice never glared at him or yelled and insulted him, like everyone in the village did, and it definitely did not try to hurt him. Spying the sun setting, he slowly moved his hands over the lake's surface and let the water fall back into it. Standing up, he started to make his way back to the village. He could hide from everyone in town during the day, but if he wasn't back at the orphanage by nightfall, the beating he received from the staff were always worse. Life at the orphanage wasn't very good for him, and the people there seemed to hate him as much as the rest of the village. He was always placed at the end of the line for food and was given the scrapings that were left or the unfinished portions no one else wanted. When he was picked on by the other children for his whisker marks, the adults did nothing to help him. Sometimes they even cheered them on, but if he tried to fight back against them, he was punished, which usually meant being beaten until he couldn't feel the blows anymore. So now he didn't fight back at all, just accepting the inevitable fate. He was dressed in the only outfit they would give him, an orange pair of pants and jacket with a white shirt underneath it and a pair of blue sandals. He hated orange not because it was a bad color but because it was forced on him. The only places he seemed to be welcome at were the library and the Hokage's office. Often, the elderly Hokage would visit Naruto and see how he was faring, which, of course, he lied about to ensure the staff of the orphanage wasn't chewed out, because if they were, he was just hurt much more. As for the library, it seemed the aging ninja who oversaw it actually liked Naruto. He had helped the young boy learn to read, and since that day, if he was not hiding by the lake's edge, he was hidden behind several books just trying to forget his own life. No one truly cared for him, that he was sure of, and so, he had to look out for himself. Somewhere inside of him, he felt there was strength and power, trying to get out, calling to him just like the water called to him. Unlike the water that was peaceful, this was angry but not at him. Instead, it seemed to be angry at those around him, angry at the people who had broken his spirit and taken his innocence so long ago. Village. Naruto winced as another rock struck him in the side. He'd never know who among the few people out this night threw the stone or the multitude of others that had been hitting him since he started down the streets towards the orphanage. The pain wasn't new to him, and so he just kept trudging forward in hopes of maybe a warm meal and some sleep. Maybe if I'm lucky, there will be some bread left over, he thought, looking for a bright side to his life. Thoughts of tasty bread though were ripped away when something suddenly tightened around his neck. Tiny hands clawed at his neck, feeling a thin and almost invisible piece of wire wrapped around his throat and slowly choked him. Slowly, the wire was pulled, drawing a line of blood from his neck, and he was pulled into an alleyway. Naruto looked up in fear, meeting the dark eyes of a woman wearing the forehead protector of the leaf loosely around her neck. The wire tightened even more, and he could feel his body getting tired and weak from the lack of air. "You stupid little demon, I'm going to finally destroy you for your crimes against this village," the woman whispered harshly to him. "Please, Saint, stop. I'm so sorry for whatever I did to make you hate me." He was just barely able to croak out, his voice pleading with the woman. "You're sorry? Is that all you have to say, demon? Did you spare my boyfriend when he begged you stop before you killed him? Did you stop before you took some of our best shinobi? Did you feel a need to stop when the fourth gave his life to stop you?" The kunoichi raged but loosened the wire enough for him to suck in a breath of air, her eyes seemingly blazing with insanity. "You'll not die yet, demon. Oh no, I'll make you suffer far more and beg me for death before giving you that sweet release from pain." The words came, and then a blow dropped Naruto into unconsciousness. She picked him up with ease and placed him over her shoulder. The Anbu that were ordered to guard the child were taking one of their many breaks, and so she need not fear being spotted as she walked away. The Hokage would never know who took the filthy brat, and thus, never be able to save him from the justice she would administer. "My genin should get some practical skills out of this anyway," she joked, walking off into the night. Slowly, in a place that had remained dark for 4 years, a pair of crimson eyes slid open and viewed the mind of its prison. Kyuubi had awakened within her container, but for now, chose to do nothing but observe all that had passed and would pass. Morning. Yuuhi Kurenai waited after genin training ended that day for Ashara-sensei's orders while her teammates were allowed to go home. The young ninja wondered what her Junin instructor could want with her. Sure, she wasn't the strongest genin and she didn't use many ninjutsu or taijutsu, but she has her genjutsu specialty, made for any failings she had in other areas. Kurenai-chan, I thank you for staying behind, especially since we had no missions today and you could be home or out enjoying yourself, Ashara said happily as her dark eyes watched her student. Did I do something wrong, Ashara-sensei? She asked. No, quite the opposite in fact. Kurenai-chan, I'm very proud of you. Practically no one can raise genjutsu to the art form I've seen you attempt. Sadly though, you lack experience in casting and maintaining your techniques on live targets. She praised the young genin and watched her blush because of it. Thank you, Ashara-sensei, but you were the one who taught me beyond the things I learned at the academy. I talked to the Hokage and explained our problem to him. He has given us the perfect way to help train your genjutsu skills in the form of an S-class criminal to practice on. Ashara lied knowing the Hokage knew nothing of the subject Kurenai would train on. Wow, really that's great, Ashara-sensei. But do you think I'm ready for this? The young Kunoichi asked in excitement. Of course. Now, come along so we can begin. The pair walked deep into the woods yet remained within the village until they came upon a long abandoned cabin. Opening the door, the pair found a small form huddled in the corner, his wrists and ankles wrapped in manacles that were fastened by iron chains to the wall. Blonde hair was limp and lying against his head, blue eyes staring at them in fear. Kurenai could swear she'd seen him somewhere before. Ashara-sensei, are you sure about this? He is just a kid, there's no way he could be an S-class criminal, Kurenai stated, looking at the child. Appearances can be deceiving, Kurenai-chan. There are people in this world younger than you but stronger than me. Now, let's start easy, okay? But make sure everything you sue is meant to scare or hurt him. Since he's chained, it's the only useful skill to try. Hi, sensei, she responded and began forming seals. Megan. Narukumi no Jutsu. Demonic illusion. Vision of hell technique, she called. The genjutsu made a swirl of leaves in front of his eyes, lulling him into the illusion's trance. Tears streamed down his eyes as he was subjected to the most traumatic images his mind could conjure, viewing them over and over again. He jerked at the chains and screamed in both terror and pain as it continued. Ashara hid a smile as she watched her student torment the little demon, inwardly cheering her on as he started screaming. She could teach Kurenai so much before the boy finally lost his sanity and needed to be killed, and thus she was killing two birds with one stone. Kurenai finally had to release the jutsu when she felt her chakra dwindling and turned her eyes away from the crying boy. A ninja would have known how to counter that illusion technique. There was no way he was any kind of criminal, but still, she had to obey her sensei. Good, very good, Kurenai-chan. Now, I'm going to teach you a few new genjutsu to use on our volunteer. Hi, sensei, she mumbled. 1 month later, a Tairu Kanju no Jutsu, inflict emotion technique, Kurenai called and watched the child suddenly begin to feel terror unlike any he had ever felt before. After a month of training she was able to do many more genjutsu than before, but now, guilt was getting to her. 2 weeks into the training and the blonde had stopped responding or showing emotion unless they were forced on him. Her sensei just told her he was catatonic. The Hokage was also in a bad mood. It seemed a child had been kidnapped from the orphanage and he wanted the boy found. Kurenai was sure that the missing kid and her volunteer were one and the same, which made her extremely guilty. She'd made the decision to finally speak to the Sandame when Ashara let her go from training. That's enough, Kurenai-chan, run along. Nodding, the red-eyed girl took her leave with as much speed as she could. Naruto had truly become catatonic. He didn't respond to anything anymore unless it was forced by Kurenai or you knew the right buttons to push like Ashara did. She smiled as she knew every night when her student left, the demon would be crying or screaming within an hour of being in her skillful hands. Now it's just the two of us, Kyuubi-kun, she whispered, having taken to calling him by the name she thought was really his. Please, please, I want to die, the blonde whispered, keeping his eyes pointed at the floor. Now, Kyuubi-kun, you'll die, don't worry. But I think tonight will be special. I think I'll take away the last of your innocence, she responded, walking forward and kneeling before him. And no, please, he begged, tears beginning to fall. No one is going to come for you. After all, who could love a little demon child like you? No parents or anyone in the whole world cares for you, but you already know that, don't you? You'll never get away from me and you won't be allowed to die until I decide to kill you," she whispered in his ear before cutting a gash along his cheek. After a month of pure torture and hell, he finally thought the words he hadn't thought since he was 2. "Someone please. Anyone please help me." Suddenly, Naruto found himself not in his chains or in the cabin. Instead, he was standing in a long dark hallway, the floor and walls made out of stone with pipes leading further in. Walking slowly, he noticed the air was colder and water seemed to rest in puddles randomly around the floor. The same calming waters he loved to play with, and while Konoha was a warm area, he seemed to feel better with the cold. He came to a halt in front of a pair of huge steel doors. Placing his hand on the cool metal, he watched as they clicked and swung open. Inside looked like a sewer, those huge leaking pipes running all around the room. Water seemed to be up to his ankles and seemed uncharacteristically dark yet not polluted. The dominating feature of the room though had to be the massive iron cage with bars that seemed to link into the very ceiling. The main door of the cage was covered with a simple slip of paper with the kanji for seal upon it. A pair of crimson slit eyes opened within the cage and Naruto felt fear well up inside of him. The interior of the cage seemed to lighten, revealing that the eyes belonged to a fox far larger than anything he could imagine, with 9 tails swishing behind it. "Am I dead? Is this the afterlife, or is this just another illusion meant to torment me?" Naruto asked softly, staring at the giant fox. "You are not dead, child, and I plan for you to remain alive for a very long time, and I am most certainly not an illusion," came the dark rumbling voice of the fox that seemed female to Naruto. "Who are you and where are we?" he asked, though if he was curious, it was lost in his sad voice. He seemed to have wished he was dead. "I am the great 9-tailed fox, Kyuubi no Kitsune, and we are within your mind. You have felt my call before while I slumbered, and now you finally came to me. It is about time. Your weakness has been irritating me since I awoke." The name sparked a memory in Naruto of the first book the librarian had taught him to read. It was a simple children's book with pictures and words describing the defeat of the Kyuubi by the hands of the Yondaime. He remembered it because he found the man to be like a hero to him. He'd even made 1 or 2 ice statues of him in the past. "The Kyuubi was defeated by the 4th Hokage 4 years ago. You're lying, so this must be another illusion," the child challenged in a soft voice. He was shocked when the fox let out a deafening roar, frightening him further before she leveled her eyes on him. "I am no illusion. The 4th Hokage, as you call him, may have defeated me with one of your human tricks, but I cannot be destroyed by some foolish man." Naruto stood in thought for a moment. His young mind was by no means stupid. In fact, because of his time reading and being forced to mature quickly to survive, he could be considered a genius. So the pieces assembled themselves quite quickly, revealing the answer to him. Glancing at his stomach, the final riddle finally came undone. "So then, I am nothing more than a demon, or the jailer of one at least," he surmised and lowered his eyes. Kyuubi was about to snort when Naruto raised his head and glared at the fox with an intensity even she found unsettling. "It's because of you that I'm suffering and have suffered. Your existence makes them hate me," he snarled, only to hear a low growl from Kyuubi that sounded like a chuckle. "Don't you dare laugh at me," he screamed, the air around him instantly chilling and the water around him freezing into solid ice, yet none of it dared touch his body. Even the pipes showed slight amounts of ice upon them. "They yell and insult me because of you. They hurl rocks and attack me until I can't even feel their blows because of you. They clothe me like an idiot so others can gawk at me and rob me of innocence because of you. All this time, all of that pain and anguish was done to me because of you. This living hell from which there is no escape is because of you. I don't even have a mommy and daddy because of you." He vented it all out, falling to his knees by the end and allowing the tears to fall from his eyes. Kyuubi watched the child cry with as much remorse as she most likely would ever be able to feel. She had used the last month since her awakening to review the memories of her cantainer's life, and truly, if she could escape, she'd finish what she started 4 years ago. This time, the village would deserve her wrath. Naruto held great potential in her eyes, perhaps even enough for her to recognize him. Demon very rarely claimed humans as their own, and often if that was done, the human was stronger than most demons within the realm. Kyuubi made a decision, her mental wheels already turning with possibilities. The boy, with her help, would master the power of his bloodline and her own power, and then if he so desired, could claim his vengeance. Maternal instinct kicked in as she heard Naruto sob, and slowly, she slid one of her tails through the bars and wrapped in around him comfortingly. Then I shall be your mother, Kit, and you, my child. I shall protect you and teach you to use my power and your own. She spoke once he had calmed and looked at her questioningly. Naruto stared into the fox's eyes, trying to detect the lie in them. In the past, many people had been kind to Naruto only to use it in order to hurt him. To date, only the old man Hokage, the librarian and the Ichiraku's ramen stand owner had not done so. These betrayals though made it very hard to fool Naruto. I want you to rip half of the seal paper off. This will let me give you more of my power and chakra. It will also let me protect you in battles too much for you to handle and allow me to speak with you whenever I wish. This was the ultimate vengeance for being defeated by that human. She suspected by the boy's looks that he was the child's father. She would raise his son like her own and train him, making him stronger than any could dream. She would be given credit for his greatness instead of his father. She had her reasons for attacking Konoha. She really held them no ill will, but how they treated the kid was wrong, and so she would both get her revenge for the defeat and atone for the mistake her rage and malevolent nature caused 4 years ago. Standing, he let the tail remain around him even as the ice suddenly thawed with loss of his emotional outburst. Reaching for the paper, only 2 outcomes were present in his mind. One was the fox had spoken the truth and he would get what was promised. 2, this would kill him and he would finally be free. Either option seemed better than what he was being put through by the village and the ninja who'd kidnapped him. Ripping the bottom half of the seal paper off, he stood back, letting it fall into the water at his feet. Red chakra poured from the fox and then began to flow like a cyclone around Naruto before entering his body directly. He seemed to the eye to be engulfed in crimson fire. Suddenly, ice blue chakra emerged from his body, mixing and flowing with Kyuubi's demonic chakra. The water suddenly rose, dancing and freezing in an intense display around the dark and dank room, only to melt into water and become steam as it was touched by the flame-like energy. My kid, you truly are a wonder. With my power over fire and with my other abilities along with your own bloodline of water and ice, you shall be magnificent. We have company, Kit, time to go back, she spoke, though the last came with her sensing human chakra. Naruto's eyes snapped back into focus just as several puffs of smoke occurred, and the room was now occupied by the Sandaime Hokage and 5 of his elite Junin. Ashara let out a scream and quickly drew a kunai and tried to slam it into his heart. Closing his eyes tightly in fear, he felt the room suddenly chill. Water that was gathered on the floor of the cabin and in the small tin cup that he drank from rose around her and then froze into spikes, ripping into her body with deadly ferocity. Sarutobi quickly released the child, who burst into tears and clung to the old man while the Junin quickly disposed of the body. The door was shoved open as they finished and an out-of-breath Kurenai stumbled inside, having run from the Hokage's office to here after he'd vanished. She'd gone to the Hokage and explained everything, including what she herself had done unwittingly. Those bright blue eyes were filled with terror when they spotted her before he buried his head into the Hokage's robes, quivering in fear. Kurenai looked down in both guilt and shame. She deserved worse than any punishment she might have received, but the Hokage had told her as he gathered the Junin that she was used and lied to, that she had no fault in this. Kurenai knew better. She might not be formally punished, but the look in those eyes would never leave her. Hokage's office. Sarutobi sighed as he watched Naruto sip a cup of hot chocolate. The boy had been through a hell he couldn't imagine, and one of his own ninja had been used to cause it. He truly hoped Ashara rotted in the pits of hell for tricking one of her own genin into constantly subjecting Naruto to that, and for what she, herself, had done to the boy. Oji-san, Naruto spoke, his voice remaining soft. Yes, Naruto-kun? Who are my parents? He asked, not looking up. The Sandaime Hokage sat back in his chair and smoked from his pipe in thought. Naruto did have a right to know, but still, it was risky, considering whom his father was. But could he really deny the child, after all he'd been through? His thoughts were interrupted as Naruto spoke again. I know that the Yondaime sealed the 9 tails inside of me. When they hurt me tonight, I found myself in front of the cage. Do my parents hate me too, Oji-san? Is that why I'm alone? No, Naruto-kun. I can assure you, your parents loved you with all their hearts. In fact, you have your mother's special gift, he replied, deciding Naruto had suffered enough. Gift? Yes. Kana-chan, your mother was born in the water country to a clan who had the ability to control ice and water. She fled here when the Mizukage ordered her clan and many other clans with bloodline abilities destroyed because he feared their power. Will you please tell me about her and my father? He asked. Hope in his eyes as he looked up, though mentally, he was also listening to Kyuubi. All right, Naruto-kun, but you have to promise never to talk about it. Your father had a lot of enemies that might try to hurt you. He received a small nod from the boy and smiled. Well, to start, your father was the Yondaime Hokage, Kazama Arashi. Kana-chan was one of the few women I've known that had been able to keep up with his energy. She was a vision of loveliness, with midnight black hair and eyes the same bright blue as yours, but she was also a deadly ninja who gave her all for this village and the friends she had made. Arashi-kun was so in love with her, but at first, she didn't pay any mind to his rather loud pronouncements of love. It was entertaining to watch her try to ignore him when both were in the same room. Eventually, he won her over, though I don't even know how, but where once she got red with anger when he said things, she then blushed. Naruto-kun, if there were any way I could have saved them that night, I would have done it. No child should live through the burden you have without the knowledge of or love a parent. I want to get stronger, Oji-san, Naruto suddenly interrupted again. What do you mean, Naruto-kun? I don't want to be weak anymore. My parents sound so strong yet I'm so weak. I want to become strong like them so no one can ever hurt me again. Do you know anyone who can teach me? He pleaded. I might know a few people who would be willing to help you, but it's entirely up to them, Naruto-kun. Sarutobi responded after thinking for a moment. I need to get away from the orphanage too. I know you don't want anyone to know about my parents, but can I at least live in their house? I already know how to take care of myself and you can come check on me every day, Oji-san. I will make you a deal, Naruto-kun. If you can get the 3 people I have in mind to train you and show me you can become strong, then I will return your family name to you officially. For now though, I think it should be safe for you to live in your clan's home and I can arrange an allowance for you until the matters of your inheritance can be handled. Is that alright with you, Naruto-kun? Yes, Oji-san. Good. Now then, let me tell you a story about the first time your father met your mother. Next day. This is the last time I wear this outfit, Naruto swore in his mind as he slowly crawled out of bed and donned his orange clothing. Naruto had maybe expected a nice house or apartment to be his family's home, but what he had found was a shocker. The Kazama clan had, at one time, been large enough to rival the Hyuga and Uchiha and thus had a compound reflecting that size. The main house held rooms for over 50 people along with a huge dining room, library, kitchen, and training dojo. Each room was beautiful in his opinion, painted in soft yellows or blues representing the clan's colors. The branch family house was just as big and between the two were beautiful gardens that seemed to have maintained themselves even without the loving touch of his family. Training fields with floors of soft sand were surrounded by the beauty of nature, seemingly trying to induce peace while in the throes of battle. A large surprise came to him though when he discovered a large pond or lake placed near the main house. The water was cold and clean, seemingly cleaner than the family baths he'd found. He figured this had been added for his birth mother. He doubted even the Hyuga compound could equal his clan's. So then, today you get everything you need from human essentials to teachers. This is the first step to controlling your power and forging your own path. Let's not dawdle, each moment not used wisely is a setback and right now you cannot afford setback. Kyuubi encouraged in his mind, intrigued slightly with the things she did not know about humans and their ninja culture. After all, if one of them could find a way to defeat her, there must be something to it she could observe within her kit. Yes, mother. It should have felt odd to Naruto to call the fox his mother, but for some reason it was rather simple. Grabbing his wallet laden with new allowance, he was out the side doors of the main house and past the gates in seconds. Konoha. Naruto sighed in defeat as yet another store ordered him to leave when he tried to buy clothes. He ignored the glares of random villagers as he continued down the streets in search of another shop. Entering the next store that was about a block away from the last, he spotted racks of ninja gear and clothing filling the entire place. Behind the counter stood an old man with graying hair and wearing the attire of a retired ninja. Taking a deep breath, he hoped for the best. "Hello there, young man, and welcome to my store. Do you need some help?" the man asked nicely when he spotted the boy. Naruto blinked at this. The man had neither thrown curses at him nor demanded he leave, and from the lead forehead protector framed on the wall, he had to have been a ninja at some point. "Well, I'm starting ninja training today and I need a new wardrobe and tools, but none of the other shops would let me buy anything," he spoke, using the saddest voice he could muster. "Well, we can't have that, can we?" I know. Let's get you suited up and I'll only charge you half price for everything to make up for your bad day," the man said with a smile, taking the child's hand once he gotten around the counter and moving to the equipment. In the end, Naruto walked out with everything he would need and more. He had decided to wear loose clothes so he was comfortable during training yet durable enough to protect him. So now, he was dressed in dark blue ninja sandals, black pants with a design of ice climbing up the legs, and a black oriental-style shirt with a crimson flame design running up from the cuffs to the top of the sleeves. Finally, a black vest completed the outfit with a yellow and blue spiral on the back. He wore shuriken and kunai holsters on his right hip and the pockets of the vest were filled with ninja gear and senbon needles. "I feel free. Good. Now, find your first sensei." "Yes, mother." Taking out the list the Hokage had given him, he first decided to find his taijutsu instructor. He was on a mission to find Alex Louis Armstrong, aka the Strong Arm Ninja. Training Field 15. It took Naruto about half an hour to find someone willing to tell him where his target was and another 20 minutes to get there. Watching from behind a tree, he observed a man possibly in his early 30s or late 40s with a blonde mustache and single swirl of blonde hair at the front of his bald head. He wore a pair of spiked knuckle dusters, black boots, and blue pants. From the waist up he wore nothing, showing off more muscles than Naruto thought were humanly possible. He watched the man punch a tree and instead of it making a dent, the entire tree was ripped in half, the top separating from the lower half and falling onto the ground, shaking the entire area. Whoa, this guy is either strong, or that was a really weak tree. Not bad for a human. He will do fine, Kit, now stop hiding and introduce yourself. Yes, mother. The more he called the fox that, the more to him it became true and easier to do so to him. Taking a deep breath and straightening his clothes, he walked from behind the tree and slowly approached his hopefully new sensei. Excuse me, Armstrong-san, Naruto called out, a bit hesitant, and waited for the man to acknowledge his presence. He was not disappointed. "Oh, it fills me with such joy to see the passionate youth of today seeking out my aid," the man practically yelled, turning around his muscles, flexing as he made poses. Naruto could do nothing more than blink. Yeah, well you see, my name is Uzumaki Naruto and..." He didn't get to finish his sentence. "And you are my new student." Oh, the feelings that filled me when the Hokage asked me to help you reach your true potential. For I, Alex Louis Armstrong, heir of Armstrong fighting style, shall help you, Naruto Uzumaki, stoke the flames of your passionate youth and achieve your goals. At the end of his glorious speech filled with posing and flexing, Naruto could swear he saw sparkles around his eyes. The man struck one last pose that would one day be known as the nice guy pose. Naruto could do nothing but nod. Excellent. Then let us begin on our journey to masculinity with 600 laps around Konoha, and then we can get to the real training. Oh, even my muscles quiver in anticipation for our future together. Making a set of hand seals, he placed a weight jutsu and a gravity jutsu on Naruto's clothes, making the approximate weight pressing down on him 100 pounds. This caused the 4-year-old to fall face first into the ground. Yes, I know it is disappointing to wear such little weight, but we must start small. Soon, you will wear a real amount of weight. Now let us begin. Our path to muscular perfection has begun. Forcing himself up, Naruto began slowly taking steps, forcing his body to move. He was unwilling to give up. Come hell or high water, he would die before failing his new teacher. Even if he's a psycho. Hokage's office. Sandaime laughed as he replaced the cloth over his crystal ball. He knew talking to Naruto's new senseis before he went seeking them would be a good idea. Each one was an expert in their field, and if he survived he would certainly become a strong and well-rounded ninja. Going back into his office, he sat down and only had to wait a few minutes for his next appointment to arrive. The dark hair and white eyes were a dead giveaway that this person was of the Hyuga clan. In truth, this was Hyuga Hiyashi, member of the main family and current leader of the clan. They had much to discuss. Afternoon, training field 22. Naruto was sore. No, change that. Naruto felt like one giant bruise. After their laps around Konoha, his taijutsu lessons began, which for today revolved around punching and kicking a log 1,000 times each, followed by 500 push-ups, sit-ups, and chin-ups, and if he faltered even once, he had to do them all again plus another 100 shots at the log. He lost count how many times he had to restart. Armstrong Sensei explained that he would meet him every other morning and that he was to do his exercises every morning. He explained that the style he wished Naruto to learn was based on speed and agility yet strength for when he struck. He had called it the destructive storm style. Luckily, Armstrong Sensei had known where his next teacher would be, so he was able to hurry and hopefully catch the man. Looking down at the paper, he committed the name to memory. Roy Mustang. He was quite surprised to find Training Field 22 filled with craters and scorch marks. The entire area looked like it had been engulfed in flames at some point. Standing in the middle of the field was a man with dark hair and eyes, dressed in a dark blue version of the Junin uniform, his forehead protector worn like a medal attached to his vest. Mustang-san, he called out, not having the same nervousness as he did with Armstrong Sensei. Kit, left now, Kyuubi suddenly ordered. If a person takes time to speak on a battlefield, they can easily be killed, was his only response. You could have just thrown a rock at me or something, you stupid bastard. Naruto yelled back, so you're my new student? Did the Hokage already speak to everybody? Yes, Mustang-san, my name is Uzumaki Naruto. My name is Roy Mustang, the Flame Ninja. You can call me Sensei or Sir. If you're worth my time, you might learn something. If you're not, then you'll probably die. Mustang spoke with a sinister gleam in his eye. Naruto gulped but nodded that he understood. Good, then let's get started. Since you're so young, I guess you don't know how to use your chakra. So we will work on that and your control. When you have it mastered, I will start teaching you jutsu, but in order for me to train you, every year you have to show me one original jutsu, got it? Excellent, now on to business, the man spoke and continued when the blonde nodded, going into a long lecture and set of exercises for Naruto to perform even when on his own. By the time evening had set in, Naruto was more than a little sure that the Hokage was a sadist for these two instructors. Looking at the list, he checked the last name and headed for Training Field 5, looking for his last sensei. Riza Hakai. Evening, Training Field 5. Compared to the other two, Hakai's sensei seemed tame. She was younger than both of his male sensei, with her blonde hair pulled up at the back of her head and wearing the uniform as Mustang Sensei. Hakai-san? He asked and ducked as a kunai flew over his head, pulling a few blonde hairs from his head before it slammed into the tree behind him. Mother, I think Oji-san is trying to kill me. Or drive you insane. Stand up, she ordered, and he gulped, getting to his feet. State your name. Uzumaki Naruto, he replied softly. Good, now my name is Riza Hakai. You will address me as Hakai-sensei and nothing else. I've already spoken to Hokage-sama and your other sensei, and until you gain some control of your chakra I'll be teaching you to use your weapons. I am a genjutsu specialist, so you will often face illusions around me. If that scares you, don't bother coming back, she explained, watching him simply seem to close off from emotion when she mentioned illusions. I won't run away, he replied coldly. Good, let's begin. Hokage's office. So then, it has gotten that bad between the branch and main house? Sandame asked. Yes, sadly, the rift that divides us has grown to the point that we might as well be separate families, Hiyashi replied. This is very bad indeed. I remember how close you and Hizashi were as boys. Do you believe this option will work though? I believe it's the only option that will keep the village from erupting into civil war. If there were another way, I would take it to spare Naruto any more trouble. I have no doubt he will be very cross with me over this, but with his name, he is the only choice. Arashi-kun must be quite angry with me wherever he is now. Kana-chan would be the one to worry about if she knew what we had planned for her son. My old teammate wanted nothing more for her child than a happy life. It seems we will condemn 2 children to save the rest of us, but perhaps they will find love in one another. Then we're agreed? Yes, we have a contract for their betrothal if he meets the conditions set forth within 8 years' time. Kazama residence. Naruto crawled into bed slowly after a light dinner of ramen. He honestly couldn't get enough of that stuff, no matter if it was from the old man at the ramen stand or from a simple cup, it was just heaven to his senses. He noticed even with his clothes off, the weight pressing down on him never changed. The schedule set up for him was brutal but necessary. 4 days a week from sunrise till sunset, he trained with his 3 sensei. The other 3 days he did his exercises and would train alone with his bloodline and Kyuubi's power. Lastly, every night, his mother would be teaching him non-ninja subjects that he had no idea how she learned. He found himself back in his mind, but unlike before, the space had changed. Gone were the leaky pipes and dirty water. Instead, he was sitting on a desk made of ice in what he guessed was a typical classroom. The chalkboard looked transparent and was floating next to a podium. Behind the podium stood a woman with long red-orange hair with twin fox ears at the top of her head. Her eyes were red and she had elongated canines. She wore a yellow skirt with a blood-red sleeveless top, and behind her were 9 swaying tails. In her hand, she held a pointer, and he swore she had an evil smile on her face. Naruto would know his mother anywhere, but still, he felt compelled to make sure. She just smiled wider and tapped the podium surface. Naruto's head hit the desk when a flower pot fell from the ceiling and made contact with his skull. "No talking while class is in session unless you're asking a question or I call on you for an answer," she spoke, then wrote on the board before turning back to look at him. "Welcome to my class. My name is Professor Kyuubi or Kyuubi-sensei, or if I am in a good mood, Little Kyuubi." Naruto knew 2 things right from the start. 1, mother had a sense of humor. 2, she was a little insane. 3, you can feel pain even asleep. 4, she had plenty of flower pots. 5, this would not end well. The last 3 he learned by the time the sun rose. Morning. Naruto awoke with a splitting headache as the last of his bumps healed. Getting a shower and then, dressing, he ate a piece of fruit for breakfast and headed to one of the family training fields. He would spend the entire day working on his bloodline and then trying to use the demonic chakra and powers of his mother. When he had finished and run through his exercises, he went into the library to read as much as he could. This is my life now. Unknown place. 2 people sat before a chessboard as another piece was added in the space for the White King. The statue was of a fearsome 9-tailed fox with a child carved into its chest. Next to the piece in the queen's spot was a statue of an elegant bird with 8 tails flowing behind it, a short-haired girl carved into its chest. So the game finally begins. Preview. Strength, it is something to be earned, and a child will push himself to the edge of life to gain it. A pair of white eyes that watch him in admiration and a village that watches him with disdain. The academy is a place to learn what he already knows, and thus, what will he end up learning in the end? The game that is his life has begun, yet is he the one in control, or is he merely being controlled? 3 friends forged in sorrow. 9 shinobi who will set the world ablaze with talent. The Junin with red eyes that fills him with fear. It's for you to rise, young shinobi, and begin your futures. It's the next episode of A Fox of Fire and Ice. Rise of a Shinobi. Don't blink or you just might miss it. Slowly the sun rose from its slumber, banishing the darkness of night and beginning to bathe the village hidden in the leaves in an orange glow. Many were still quietly sleeping in their beds and thus missed such a beautiful sight. One child, though, was wide awake, sitting upon his roof watching the dawn of a new day. He looked to be around 10 years old with golden blonde hair and bright blue eyes. His name was Kazama Naruto, though the world knew him as Uzumaki Naruto. 6 years had passed since Naruto was tortured mercilessly and thus met his adoptive mother Kyuubi. It had also been 6 years since he started to learn from 3 of the oddest but powerful Junin in the world. Moments like these were precious to the boy. The world seemed so forgiving and innocent, and the beauty of the village truly shone in front of his eyes. "Kid, today is important, so get ready." Kyuubi spoke up in his mind, breaking the moment. "Yes, mother," he replied mentally in his soft voice. It was the one thing that had remained since the incident. Rising from his place, the boy made his way back into his bedroom. 6 years had seen the boy grow to be about average for his age, and his hair grow longer, though he refused to allow it to spike into the air, instead keeping the back straight and the front rather limp. He kept his clothing the same except for the sizes that he needed, and had inner pockets sewn into the sleeves of his shirt for hidden weapons. Strapping his kunai and shuriken holsters onto his right hip, he then loaded his senbon needles into his vest pockets along with the other tools of his trade. After he had finished, he loaded a few of each kind of weapon into each of his sleeves, well hidden. It's been an odd couple of years. He thought, putting the water on to boil for his favorite breakfast. Today was important, and thus he needed his self-proclaimed breakfast of champions. Ramen. Now that he had time, his mind thought back on all that had happened in 6 short years. Flashback training years. Taijutsu training basically consisted of exercising and running. After about 3 months of this, Armstrong Sensei began teaching him the stances and katas for the destructive storm style. Approaching storm stance. Basic stance, where the user stands facing the opponent, his right leg planted behind him, the left leg bent slightly for flexibility. His left hand is held in front of him at chest level, palm like a half praying position. The right hand is at the side, open, fingers pointed towards opponent hand in a cupping position. This stance is used for defending and counter-attacking by catching or pushing aside an attack and moving around the attacker, throwing them or striking with knife edge or pressure point strikes. Thunderstorm stance. This is an offensive stance for facing 1 to 2 opponents. The user leans forward and bends the knees. The hands remain in the same places as the approaching storm stance, except the right can either be flat or curled into a fist. Utilizing an explosive burst of speed, the user charges an opponent and channeling chakra into the fingers or fist, strike as many places as fast as possible before either moving past the opponent or retreating. The hits come so fast that the pain and damage does not register for a full second. Lightning palm, the first of the 3 attacks used with the thunderstorm stance. It can only be compared with the 64 palms or the 128 palm techniques used by the Hyuga. Lacking the Byakugan eye's ability to see chakra points and thus make precise hits to close them. The lightning palm strikes all over the upper torso, arms, legs and head, using blinding speed to damage the entire body and hopefully close every chakra point without knowing its placement. Thunder fist, second of the 3 attacks, instead focuses on one strike instead of many. In this instance, the user condenses chakra on the surface of the fist and within the knuckles. Using the left hand to sweep away or block incoming attacks, you then strike with your right fist. The damage does not come from the punch. Instead, when your fist impacts, the condensed chakra is released like a wave or clap of thunder, damaging the opponent internally, shredding muscle tissue, nerves and organs. In the case of the punch being blocked, most arm or leg bones are shattered by the resulting wave. It should be noted that this attack can also rip through wood or armor. Naruto learned that this is what Armstrong Sensei had used the day he met him. Rain of blows, the final and ultimate attack of this stance. It combines the speed of the lightning palm with the destructive wave strikes of the thunder fist. In this attack, the user also uses both fists, making this attack purely offensive. It can be used on one opponent or many, depending on how fast you move and how quick you can condense your chakra onto your fist and the amount of chakra you possess. Tornado stance, a defensive counterattack stance used when fighting more than one person. In all essence, this stance has its roots in Aikido, as it is meant to use an opponent's attacks and strength against them. The body remains loose and at ease. As one opponent attacks, you counter their attack using their own power and then use a ranged strike on the other opponent or opponents with kunai or senbon needles. Hurricane stance. This stance is purely defensive and based around receiving an opponent's maximum energy and strength while taking minimum hits and damage, thus slowly tiring them out and conserving your own energy. The right leg is bent at the knee, the foot resting ahead of you while the body leans forward with the left foot planted behind you to help keep you in place and absorb the attacker's momentum. The eyes always follow the attacker, pivoting around when they get behind you. The left hand is straight out to the side, the palm flat and turned face up. The right arm is exactly the same, only pointed to the right and face down. Considering an attack can come from anywhere, being spread out like this allows you freedom of movement and little to no blind spots excluding directly behind you. While Naruto learned the stances and the katas to execute these attacks and defenses, he however did not master them within the first 3 years of training. It was also during these exercises and tutoring sessions that Naruto began to notice someone constantly watching him. At first he thought it might be the old man Hokage or some irate villager, but during his 5th year of training he found out it was a pretty dark-haired girl. He also learned she was following him almost everywhere. He later learned her name Hyuga Hinata, and she also became his first childhood friend. In year 4, now that he could perform, to quote Armstrong Sensei, the beautiful dance of fiery youth, without many mistakes or his helping hand, it was decided he needed a sparring partner. Thus Uzumaki Naruto met Meta Guide Konoha's Green Beast. Oh, it is such a joy to know I will be joining you and Armstrong Sensei in your pursuit of youthful passion. Oh, the emotions I feel. had been the first words out of the Junin's mouth before he and Armstrong Sensei dissolved into a half-hour of crying and hugging. Is he a pervert or has he taken one too many knocks to the head? Naruto had wondered before they started including them in the bonding. I think it might be both, kid, and I swear if you turn out like either of them I will gouge my eyes out with my tails, she had joked while rolling around her cage while watching him. Gai-san, while a worse nutcase, was also far more talented in taijutsu than Naruto. Thus for his remaining 2 years with Armstrong Sensei his meetings were filled with beatings. Beatings that progressively got less and less painful and harder for Gai-san to achieve. This was all made harder for Naruto by Armstrong Sensei, who increased his training weights by 100 pounds every 6 months. Ninjutsu studies with Mustang Sensei were just as hazardous to his health, if not more so. After he learned the 4 main chakra control exercises. First had been levitating and turning a leaf, which was placed on his forehead by only using chakra. Second was tree walking, which involved literally walking up a tree using only your chakra to hold you to the surface. Use too much and you will be launched from the tree damaging it. Use too little and you will not stick to it. He hadn't been allowed to stop until he could walk on the tree without any trouble and even hang upside down from a branch for 6 hours without straining. Thirdly had been water walking, which came fairly easy to Naruto given his love of the water and the ice. Finally, and the worst of all 4, had been balancing kunai on each tip of his fingers. If you messed up for even a second you would lose a digit. After that grueling experience he expected to be taught ninjutsu. Instead Mustang Sensei began his endurance training, which basically revolved around Naruto being chased up trees or performing his other exercises, while Mustang Sensei threw fireballs at him. What does this have to do with anything? Naruto had complained once his 2nd year of training had started. Your enemy won't stand still or wait for you to finish making seals and properly mold chakra, so learn to think on the fly and don't get hit, was the only response before 6 fireballs came at him. When he started his 3rd year of training with Mustang Sensei he began being taught basics like henge, bunshin and kawarimi, which led to his first new jutsu. Okay kid, you said you had a new jutsu for me? He had asked at the end of the 3rd year and the end of basics as he called it. Naruto smiled. He had many times seen his teacher in the company of lovely young ladies. More often than not he was also around Hawkeye's sensei, so he had a good idea what one of the man's weaknesses was. It should be noted in the medical file of Roy Mustang, that on this day he had to receive a blood transfusion, due to an excessive nosebleed. Naruto Uzumaki had also been admitted, after being used for target practice by Riza Hawkeye. Naruto was also ordered never to show Mustang another original jutsu. The remaining 3 years Naruto had several jutsu drilled into his brain. The first year it was Kaiden, fire, techniques and Suiden, water, techniques. He took to them easily, mastering the easier ones within months and the rest over 2 years. His 2nd year he learned basic Doden, earth, and Futon, wind, jutsu, but he could learn only a few of each. The last year was spent refining his techniques and teaching him more advanced jutsu, even going so far as to show him Raiden, lightning, jutsu. Also when Naruto explained his bloodline trait Mustang Sensei helped him refine the attack jutsu that had been in his birth mother's scrolls. Ninja are tools Naruto. The better skilled the more used you become. Now I know you are prepared because I hand in preparing you, but I want you to promise me you won't hesitate. Hesitation will get you killed, he told Naruto on their last day of training. I understand Mustang Sensei, you might be a sadist but I thank you for your help. It was one of the few moments Naruto was proud to know the Pyro Sensei. Genjutsu training basically became weapon training for Naruto, when Hawkeye's sensei had finished teaching him 3 varied genjutsu and he decided he truly disliked most of the others. Instead of simply parting ways, Naruto and she began exhaustive ranged weapons training, as well as survival skills and other ninja basics. She also trained him heavily in how to detect and dispel genjutsu, or to look for what was out of place that might tip him off to an ambush. She wouldn't push him seeing how tense he was when even the word came up. Riza Hawkeye married Roy Mustang during his final year of training. If asked why he thought it happened, Naruto would simply reply, "He had 3 years to try and figure out if I did the jutsu right. Guess this was the only way to find out." It should also be noted that he escorted a young girl to the wedding. A Miss Hyuga Hinata. End flashback. 6 years and still their eyes glare with intensity and hatred. Hinata-chan is one of the few my age who doesn't do the same. Naruto thought as he finished preparing his beloved ramen. She seems timid by nature, the kind of mate that needs to be protected. I think you should consider helping with that problem if she plans to be a ninja. You have much to live up to, kid. It may sound harsh, but strength must be considered. Kyuubi spoke up with a yawn from her cage. She had nothing against the Hyuga really, but her kid deserved the best. She's a friend, mother. I'm too young to even consider falling in love. Besides, I barely have any idea what that word means. Today is not about that anyway. Kid, you have not been a child for many years. Do not pretend to be so immature you fail miserably. So how should we change the training schedule now that I'm no longer under my senseis? He asked, changing the subject. You're going to invent new moves in your taijutsu style and refine it, making it your own. Plus there are tons of jutsu inside the scrolls here, you will learn them. This is not the end of our conversation, kid. Yes, mother, he grumbled mentally and finished his meal. Cleaning up his mess, he set out for the Hokage's tower. Hokage's office. Naruto arrived within a few minutes and ignored the Anbu guarding the tower along with the Chunin serving as the Hokage's assistant. Entering the office, he found the Sandaime waiting for him at his desk, smoking on his pipe. You wanted to see me, Oji-san? There isn't something wrong with my paperwork to join the academy, is there? He asked with his eternally soft voice. No, though I am a bit concerned that you're going to be bored with the previous training you have. I really wish you would have taken my advice about early enrollment. The old Hokage said, watching the young blonde sit down. I don't want to give another Junin a reason to come after me or use her students on me. If I show more aptitude than normal, then I am just inviting trouble on myself. Besides, I learned more than I could have from my sensei than in a classroom. So what is this about, Oji-san? Sarutobi nodded and slid a wooden box to Naruto, who spotted several scrolls inside once he removed the lid. You might be going to the academy, Naruto, but I know just how strong you are. So now that you're going, I can give you these scrolls, which hold techniques and styles belonging to your parents. I want you to read the one in the front, though, first, because it is a contract I entered you into when you were 4. Read it before you start ranting. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the word contract but restrained himself for now. Taking the scroll out, he began to slowly read over the elegant script, which caused his eyes to narrow after each sentence. One phrase stuck with him as he rolled the scroll back up. When of the proper age will marry Hyuga Hinata. Several emotions flew through the young genius's mind, more than he had shown in a few years before they settled on anger and rage. What do you mean I'll marry Hinata-chan? How can this even be legal? You didn't even discuss this with me and you're not even my legal guardian. Why would you even make such a deal? Damn it, Baka Ojiisan, answer me. For the first time since the incident, Sandaime watched Naruto raise his voice and even yell while he ranted. Sarutobi watched with a small smile as emotions were displayed on the usually cold child. It gave him hope that Naruto would eventually come out his shell once more. Also, it reminded the old man that this truly was Arashi and Kana's son. Only those two could throw a tantrum like this one. Calm down, Naruto-kun, and I'll explain. Naruto growled but forced his body to relax and his emotions to fade away into the background of his mind. Good, now 6 years ago, after you came to me with both your demands and your desire to become stronger, at the same time word had reached me of unrest going on within the Hyuga clan. You see, Naruto Hinata is seen as a rather weak heiress. It has gotten no better over the years considering her shy and timid nature. It was and is to the point that the branch family might revolt against the main family, which would turn into a mess considering they would be killed because of the seal they bear. Hiyashi had only 2 options. He could brand his daughter a member of the branch family and mark his youngest daughter as the heir, or he could pacify the elders of the family by betrothing her to someone of great strength. One whose power will benefit the entire clan and give Hinata someone to defer to. Naruto, with your abilities and your mother's bloodline, they would be fools to say you were unfit, so it forces them to not only acknowledge Hinata but will also help Hiyashi begin to make peace between the main and branch families. He took long gulps of air between each part before sitting back and taking a puff from his pipe. Not one word you have said affects me or my goals or gives me an incentive to go along with your crazy plan. He held up his hand to stop the Hokage from speaking. I know Hinata likes me. It does not take a genius to figure out she has been stalking me for a number of years, but I was not prepared to deal with my feelings for her not until I was at least free of a training schedule which might get worse due to my going to the academy. Do you care for her, Naruto? He leaned forward considering the question. He and the young girl had spoken on many occasions and his mother had expressed that she would make a fine mate. They were also friends, something Naruto truly appreciated her for. There was no disputing Hinata was pretty and with time she would become beautiful. He found himself blushing slightly at that thought. He was too young to use the word love, but he could answer the man's question. Yes, I care for her. She is one of the few people who treat me well, the only one remotely close to my age, but you do not know what will happen in 6 or 8 years' time. Very well then, for now will you honor the contract? If I add a provision that should either of you want out of the arrangement after 4 years' time the betrothal will become voided? He asked, hoping the young man before him would agree. I will agree, Oji-san, but I want my last name back now. Instead of later. I think I am strong enough to protect myself and I deserve that much considering you kept this from me and Hinata for 6 years. Sandame sighed. He had hated making this deal. Especially without the boy's knowledge, but it was the best way to keep the village from exploding into fighting. He knew he might lose the child's trust, but maybe he could earn it back. Sometimes being the Hokage truly sucked. Very well, I will have the records changed back and all the paperwork done to reinstate you. This works in both of our favors actually. It will only improve your standing to others knowing you're the son of the fourth. Naruto got up and began walking to the door, but he stopped and looked back to the third Hokage. I could care less how the bastards of this village see me. I simply wanted what was taken from me returned. Arashi Kazama may have been my father, the male part of my genetics, but he is not my father. Armstrong Sensei, Mustang Sensei, and even you, Oji-san, are the male figures who raised me. In the end, all he did was curse his own son to save this place. He spoke before exiting the tower. Across town, a young girl with dark hair and white eyes squeaked and promptly fainted with a blush covering her entire face as she received the same news as Naruto. Training Field 36. Naruto sat in the middle of a lake meditation style, using his chakra to keep above the water. He had his eyes open, concentrating on making the water flow and change directions against the natural current, utilizing his bloodline trait. Also, a crimson aura flowed around him like an enraged flame. He'd made the discovery a while back that yes, he could tap and use his mother's chakra, but to use it for long periods of time he needed to build up endurance and make his body used to the destructive energy. Currently 3 tails was the max he could use for longer than a few minutes, but to him that was more than enough. You can show yourself, Mitarashi-san, I know you're up there. He spoke, looking into the trees, and then caught a dango skewer between his fingers when it was hurled at him. Mitarashi Anko was an odd one in his opinion. She was an elite Junin that Sandame had assigned to keep an eye on him along with Anbu after the Ashara incident. Of course there were times she was busy with missions, but still Naruto had come to like the homicidal girl. He watched her jump from the trees wearing her usual fishnet bodysuit along with a trench coat and short leather skirt. The golden snake-like eyes of hers danced with amusement. You look like someone just sentenced you to execution, Naruto-kun, she said, watching as he let the crimson energy slip away and calmly walked back onto land. Oji-san just informed me I was betrothed to someone, he replied. Oh, so you are going to the executioner's block? She joked. Hopefully not. Mitarashi-san, would you be able to do me a favor? He asked quietly. Sure, what do you need, brat? Well, with academy classes starting, my mornings and afternoons will be filled with classes and training. Most likely helping Hinata-chan too, but if possible could you train me at night? Anko blinked after he finished speaking. She'd been watching out for him for a long time now and could see the potential in him, but still she had never taught someone before. The Hokage had originally put her as his guard to weed out the bad elements in Anbu and to ensure Naruto lived and did not take his own life. Anko had killed any number of assassins after the boy, some of which came from other shinobi nations. She had also been there when Naruto had been attacked and protected by a shield of pure fire. We'll give it a try, kid, but if you can't keep up then we don't try again, alright? Thank you, Mitarashi-sensei, Naruto said and latched onto her with a hug. Stop that brat, a shinobi does not hug. Ah, don't you like me anymore, Anko-chan? He teased. Next morning, Hinata was surprised to say the least when she opened the gates to the Hyuga compound, and found Naruto standing there seemingly waiting for her. Yesterday's conversation with her father brought forth more than the usual amount of blush she would have around her crush. Naruto-kun, she stammered out, looking at her shoes, and began pushing her fingers together. She was sure he must hate her now and was just waiting to tell her off. Hinata-chan, we should get going. he spoke up, pushing of the wall and starting down the street. She looked up at his retreating back before blushing and jogging to catch up to him. I'm not mad at you or anything, you didn't know they made that deal in the first place, and despite what others tell you, you're very pretty. Thought I need to help you with your confidence. He then held out his hand towards her. We'll see if you can put up with me, eh? Hinata-chan, he joked. She smiled before answering. I'll do my best Naruto-kun, she stammered before placing her hand in his. He gave her one of his foxy grins and a small squeeze to her hand in reassurance. I think my life just got interesting, he thought, and then stopped as he sensed a presence behind them. The scent touching his nose was one he would never forget. Enhanced senses or not. Stopping, he kept his hand in Hinata's and turned around. Behind the pair was a beautiful young woman with dark hair and crimson eyes. She wore the vest of Chunin rank with her forehead protector around her forehead. Blue eyes narrowed when he met those eyes. Kurenai watched his eyes fill with sheer terror for a moment before they became colder than ice, seemingly freezing over. She'd been given the mission to escort Hinata to the academy. Not a big deal really, but she hadn't expected to run into the object of one of her life's largest mistake. Uzumaki-san, Hyuga-san, I'm here to escort you to the academy. I didn't mean to interrupt something, she said with formality but a smile when she saw Hinata blush. My last name is Kazama Yuahi-san. Hinata-chan, I'll meet you at the academy. Naruto replied, his voice softer than usual, and released her hand. He went to walk away when he felt Hinata grab his hand again. Naruto-kun, let's get going talk together. She stuttered. Taking a deep breath to calm himself, he nodded and began walking towards the academy with her. Kurenai, walking with them, noticed the air was slightly colder than normal. Remembering what Naruto's bloodline was, she made sure to walk beside Hinata to hopefully keep the peace between them. She was thinking the entire time of a way to maybe make up for her past mistake with the blonde. Reaching the academy, she watched them enter before letting out a sigh and going to meet with her teammates. Maybe Anko-chan has an idea. She's been watching out for him since then, and it would be good to put this behind us, she thought, and took to the rooftops. Academy. Naruto and Hinata, arriving just before class was due to begin, chose to take a pair of seats in the back. Sitting next to them was a boy with dark hair, wearing a pair of sunglasses and a high-collared white jacket. Good morning everyone, and welcome to the first step on your journey to becoming shinobi, spoke the dark-haired Chunin, who sported a scar across his nose at the front of the room. My name is Amino Uruka and I will be your teacher here at the academy, so let's get started. Please raise your hand or say here when I call your name, he spoke, picking a clipboard. Aburame, Shino, the boy next to Naruto, indicated that was his name but made no move to speak. Naruto quickly lost interest in listening and just noted people whose clans he had read about or seemed as bored as he was. Kazama Naruto? Here, he responded, giving the teacher a dismissive wave. Uruka looked at the boy who had claimed that name and blinked, rechecking the list. That's the Kyuubi container, but why is he using the same name as the fourth? There seems to be a mistake here. No sir, that is my name. If you think otherwise, please talk to Oji-san Hokage, Naruto spoke before laying his head on the table. I'll be sure to. Now where was I? He responded before going back to the roll call. I have not been here 10 minutes and something already happened. This has to be a record. Perhaps you should try and be nice to this man. He doesn't seem to genuinely hate you. Show him you can perform and he might warm up to you. Kyuubi spoke up, laying on the floor in her cage watching the proceedings. Yes, mother, he thought back watching the man as he began to lecture principles of being a shinobi. Losing interest, he began looking around the room and taking stock of his classmates. There was an Inuzuka along with his nin dog, though still a puppy, resting on his head. Inara already asleep on his desk. Next to him, snacking on a bag of chips, was an Akamachi. A blonde who he figured was a Yamanakai was next to the boys. A pink-haired girl who seemed more a student than a legacy was furiously taking down notes. He knew the boy next to him was an Aburame. Looking to the last person, Naruto analyzed him from the distance. He wore a dark blue shirt with the Uchiha clan symbol on the back with white shorts. Uchiha Sasuke, last living member of his clan with the noticeable exception of his brother, the supposed murderer of said clan. He could be of some use assuming he has any talent, Naruto thought, identifying the dark-haired Avenger. After class,